Where do werewolves hate to shop?
Target.
Flea market.
No.
Yeah.
No.
How do werewolves eat lunch? They wolf it down.
No.
What did the werewolf say when he sat on sandpaper?
Oh, no.
Rough.
No.
Where do they make werewolf movies? In Hollywood. And that's how we're opening the show right now. Welcome to Hollow Weekly. We're your hosts, Nick Rollins here with
George Ely.
And today we have an episode one to howl about. That's not the howling.
No.
It's not the best opener, but we'll go with it.
Yeah.
But we'll go with it. So we watched 2 werewolf movies.
Mm-hmm.
And there's something about horror in general. I want to know if you feel the same way, but like tons of vampire movies, tons of zombie movies.
Yep.
You know, but for some reason there's something weird about werewolf movies just in Hollywood and in films in general. Like there seems to be.
Yeah, they didn't catch on like vampires and like whatever quite.
And why do you think that is? Do you think that's budget wise?
Yeah, I mean the budget of the transformation is probably part of it. It's probably less compelling as a metaphor or less. I don't think it's less compelling, but it's probably less. It's harder to get across. And I was thinking about this actually. Comparatively, I feel like there's probably about the same number of witch movies as werewolves.
Yeah,
and
I would
wonder
say
if it's probably the same kind of reason, right? Like it's just a more complicated metaphor. The vampire metaphor is so easy, right? It's like
also like most vampires, they try to make them like pretty hot,
right.
So like the sex appeal of a vampire versus a werewolf, like
Yeah,
you're gonna get all that hair in your mouth, and it's like,
right, totally. But there's a reason we wanted to do this episode at this time. So as we're speaking right now, we're on the eve of the election, right? So everyone's voting.
there's a bad moon rising.
There's a bad moon rising, right? And it seems like everybody's talking about on either side is that if the other one wins, the whole country is going to transform into some unrecognizable monster. So in honor of the transformation that's about to happen to America, we wanted to pick a transformative creature. Plus, I don't know if everyone's noticed this, but in the news, every week there's a new supermoon, right? This is a phenomenon now where
I saw that there was a supermoon here in November. That's once in a lifetime.
Yep, and it happens every week. So.
Yep, every week.
Right. So we put together the moon with transformation and put us in the mood to watch some werewolf movies, and
we got and so there was a werewolf movie, and I personally I love the werewolf idea. I think it's like one of the coolest monsters
I do too
in the world. And George brought a movie into my life that I never even heard of called Wolfen. And now here's the weird thing about werewolf movies.
Yes.
So there was the 40s. He's like 41 was the Wolfman.
Right.
Right. Somewhere in the 40s. And then, there was quite a few past them, whatever. But for some fucking reason, and I didn't know this about any of these movies, but the movie Wolfen, which we're going to talk about today.
Yes.
The movie The Howling, and American Werewolf, those two we're not going to really touch on today.
Yeah, because we're trying to do lesser known werewolf movies.
But those 3 movies, same year, 1981, they all came out same year as Evil Dead, as well, which is kind of funny because some of the shots in Wolfen and the shots in Evil Dead, they have that like low to the ground camera moving thing, and I was like, I wonder what came out first, and it's like same year, like holy shit, like that's crazy.
Right.
But not just a crazy year for werewolf films.
Yeah, it was literally the year where the number one werewolf movies in almost anyone's list dropped all simultaneously. Like it was crazy.
And then and speaking of American Werewolf and the timing, you just sent me a link before we recorded this that apparently Max Landis, John Landis's son, is doing an American Werewolf in London remake.
Yep. Well, Universal's really cranking out the horror.
And speaking of more werewolves, I saw a rumor. It was one of those like shit posts on Instagram. So whether it's completely true or not, I'll have to look into it. But apparently the rumor right now, and I there's no weight to it at all. But the idea of it I was actually kind of behind was I love this actor. I love The Rock. Mm-hmm. I think he's a cool fucking person. He always seems cool. There's a rumor going around that he's going to be the Wolfman.
I heard that.
You saw it too? Yes. Okay, so I'm not the only one.
That would be amazing.
What do you think of that?
I think that would be amazing.
I think it's great. Yeah. Because the thing is, I know most people think of werewolves, you have this like scrawny looking guy turning into this big beast. But I like The Rock. I think he's a pretty
think cool about dude. How perfect is this? Like whoever's playing the Wolfman has to be able to play two sides of something, right? And The Rock has literally had two careers, right? Yeah. Two totally different careers, right? So he knows how to play personas. I'm all for it.
Yeah. Anyways, I really like that idea.
I think it's cool.
So I like so far. I like all the casting they've been doing. I don't know if this is. I think this is for Universal's Monster Avengers cinematic universe they're going for. Mm-hmm. But if it is true, right now I think they're nailing the casting down. Mm-hmm. And did they ever say whether or not that Johnny Depp was the Invisible Man?
I think that's confirmed.
Is that confirmed?
I think so.
I would like that.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I think they're doing it right this time, which is good news because they did it right the first time when they invented all this, right? So
just so I don't deviate too far, you know who I thought my second choice for Invisible Man would be?
Who?
Michael Shannon.
I could totally see that.
Wouldn't that be cool?
That would be amazing.
But I like Johnny Depp's voice.
He's got kind of a Claude Rains vibe.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah.
He's got this like kind of cool. But I mean, anyways, if anyone's listening, have your second string Invisible Man be Michael Shannon just in case.
Yes.
We'll take credit later.
Yeah.
So this is all about werewolves.
Yep.
We'll talk about Invisible Men later.
Let's do it.
So we're going to talk about Wolfen, 1981, starring Albert Finney, who I confuse with Brian Cox.
Yep.
Of very Trick or Treat.
Yep.
Super Troopers. And because every show has to have that in it.
And we're going to talk about Late Phases, which has a subtitle, right? Like Night of the Lone Wolf or something.
Yeah.
Because these are two lesser known movies. But I want to start with Late Phases, if that's okay with you.
Do you want to give the audience the synopsis?
Yeah. So here, let's just lay the groundwork here. So I recommend that you watch both of these movies. We're gonna spoil the hell out of them because we have to.
Yeah.
To get into this in detail.
And as of the recording, Late Phases is on Netflix.
Correct.
So you can check it out on Netflix.
Yep. And I saw Wolfen on Amazon, and it was not expensive. So, but
worth it.
Totally worth it.
Which we'll talk about why.
So here's the brief synopsis of Late Phases. If you haven't seen it and you're considering it, so the synopsis is Crescent Bay is not the ideal place to spend one's golden years, especially since the once idyllic retirement community has been beset by a series of deadly animal attacks from the ominous forest surrounding it. When grizzled war veteran Ambrose McKinley is forced into moving there by his yuppie son, the residents immediately take offense to his abrasive personality. But that take-no-prisoners attitude may be just what Ambrose needs to survive, as it becomes clear the attacks are being caused by creatures that are neither animal nor man, and that the tight-knit community of Crescent Bay is hiding something truly sinister in their midst.
Well, let's just jump right into Late Phases.
Let's do it.
So we discovered it through, and I talk about this channel all the time, Good Bad Flicks. He has a
great channel,
exploring series where he takes movies that usually have some sort of rep behind it of them not being fit masterpieces. They're not usually piles of shit.
Yep.
But there's a reason why they didn't do so good. So he explores the movie and just tells you all the cool shit about it. And it got pretty decent praise by him, I think. I think he said overall, like, it has its flaws, but it is what it is. Sure. But I saw, like, I think it was Bloody Disgusting, gave it 4 out of 4.
5 out of 5 skulls.
5 out of 5
top rated
skulls.
Yeah.
And I have to disagree a lot with this movie.
I'm gonna disagree alongside.
And I really, really wanted to love it. Like we went right in, because I talk about Bram Stoker's Dracula all the time. One of the things I love about it is the score.
Yep.
Same cat.
Yep.
Same cat did Late Face. I'm not even going to try to pronounce his name. Wolchek, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
He did the score for that.
Yep.
And there was some pretty good music towards the end that he did when the chant, like the choir kind of thing came in.
Absolutely.
The rest of it was sort of kind of flat and not as striking.
There's a lot of people that love this movie, and I'm not going to tell you you're wrong. There's some really good elements in this movie. It's not like the entire thing was crap all the way through. Right?
No, and like the actor,
right, right, for sure.
Who guy played Ambrose.
Yeah, we'll get into the details of what was good or bad, but I just want to say this out front. Okay, so there are bad horror movies that are fun, and there are bad horror movies that are bad, and not fun, right? And a bad horror movie that's bad, it's not fun, does some damage to the genre. It gives people the excuse to be like, yeah, horror movies are, you know, they don't even care, they don't try, you know, like whatever. Oscar Wilde said the worst poetry is sincere. This is a sincere movie, and that makes it more dangerous than any other kind of horror movie that's bad. I'd rather it be bad fun. I'd rather it be bad. But this movie thinks it's good, tries some really to do stuff that's a little higher level than what like a cash-in horror movie would do.
Yeah.
And it's so fucking bad that it makes it dangerous, because it does more damage that way. Like to me, it's like it was trying to work these big themes in, and you know, there were just to me the worst thing you can do in a horror movie is force the characters to do unnatural, dumb, disjunct things because you need them to do that to pull off something you're trying to do in a scene.
Yeah.
Right. And this movie treats its characters like pretzels. It makes them do the dumbest, most implausible, sometimes physically impossible things just because the director wanted a shot or a scene, or the writer wanted to, you know, like whatever. So we'll get into all whatever, but that's the thing is I just want to say on the outset, like, I give the movie credit for trying to do something that's a little higher level. There's some great acting. There's a lot of great acting, actually.
Yeah.
And
the priest in this movie is in Wolfen,
right?
Which we'll talk about.
Tom Noonan, amazing actor, yeah,
really great guy.
So that you know, just out of the gate, I just want to get up front that it's like there's good elements in there, and there's some really good concepts, but the writing and the directing choices sink this thing without a trace. So let's go through. All right, so what's your opening thought on?
So I think the first thing people usually think about with werewolf movies is the werewolf.
Yes.
Themselves.
Yes.
You think about the transformation scenes. You think about the design of the werewolf. And I'm going to reference Good Bad Flicks a lot because a lot of the information about the making of the film I got from him.
Cool.
And then my thoughts from the film from watching it. He said that the studio really, really wanted to do a lot of the stuff practical. They wanted to have a lot of practical stuff, which I completely am all for. Like he did a great series. Check it out about the 2011 prequel to The Thing. That's top-notch fucking
absolutely
practical effects. And honestly, I'm going to be completely honest with the audience. I'm a huge fan of CGI. I love what is possible to do it. I love how it can enhance a scene. Of course, it can make anything look terrible.
Yeah, of course. But when you do it right, I just watched Splice and I was like, oh my God, CGI can be good.
And stuff like Mad Max. Everyone says it's a lot of practical, but like there's a fuck ton of like CGI that you don't see because it's good. Same with Wolf of Wall Street.
Sure.
So I'm a fan of CGI. But when they said they were doing everything practical, I was like, oh, that's really cool. Like, the last, like, I think, bastion of great practical effects is, like the Rick Bakers. I was about to say his name first, but then Rick Baker popped in my head. Stan Winston.
Yes.
Stan Winston. I always think of his pumpkin head,
sure,
his dinosaurs, his everything. And, I've done a little bit of makeup and effects, but nothing to the extent of prosthetics and making the kind of shit they did. But I saw the werewolf design and it was kind of silly. Like, I didn't think it was that intimidating. In fact, it's so crazy. I just watched this the other day, which is another practical effect. I just watched Tales from the Dark Side, and there's the story where the gargoyle comes to life, and it kind of reminded me of that. And you said Donnie Darko.
Yeah, it looks like a freaking Donnie Darko bunny.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like this is how like fucking weird I am. I'm like so positive about everything. It's like even trashing this film, I hate it. I'm like, I know. I'm like, hey man, it's not easy to make a werewolf. I didn't like it. No. I didn't fucking like it.
They're not scary. The design is poor, and it's silly from far away. But even like, I mean, you live or die with the transformation scene, and the transformation scene in this is garbage. Like the camera cuts away during all the key moments.
Well, the big thing about the camera scene, real quick, let me just set it up. So in Good Bad Flicks, he talks about the setup. They used I forget what kind of like jib camera crane it is, but it's the kind that you program. So you program it to do the exact same camera move, like to the second. Right. So it took them 2 days to program the camera movement. So they wanted that transformation scene to look like it was. I think it was 10 takes that they edited to look like one.
Sure.
So. And it didn't serve any purpose.
No, when he changes, first of all, they did the same mistake the Howling did, but you got to forgive the Howling because it was 1981 when they did it. Like, so we should know better now, 2014 or 15 or whatever this movie was made. But there's a guy watching him transform, the priest.
The priest. He's already been killed in 81.
Right. You should know better. And he just stands there and watches the transformation happen for like 4 minutes before he runs away. Like, it looks ridiculous. But when they cut back to the character that's transforming, the first cut you get of him after the transformation, he's literally standing there with like the most ridiculous like fake teeth in his mouth. Like they don't even look like they fit. Like he's having trouble making that happen. The actor, like it's the worst. Like I don't get how much effort they put into having it be that bad. It makes no sense.
Yeah, I still sort of think the gold standard for werewolf transformation is American Werewolf, and
of course,
even with the bad, same guy, Rick Baker doing the Wolfman and the Benicio del Toro. Version, like even though the CGI looks bad in that scene, like it dated pretty really fast, it still at least is a cooler concept because it's he's in that room with all those doctors and it's strapped down into a chair, and everyone like I think there's like the 3 guys who do watch it and like what the fuck is that, but everyone around them is like nope that's a werewolf, I'm out. But in late phases when he fully changed, the priest gives this like cheerleader like prance dance run to his car. Like he doesn't look like he's too worried. So I just think the werewolf design was pretty weak.
Yeah, and so this is the thing. So I agree, and let's dive into a couple of the ways in which the movie forces the characters to come off in a way they don't deserve, which is bad. So the first attack on Ambrose, the blind guy who's the protagonist
at the top of the film.
At the top of the film. Well, actually the attack is on his neighbor, and then the werewolf detects that there's someone else listening and then goes to attack him. The first attack. So go back and watch this because you don't realize how funny it is until you actually go and look for it. Right. So the werewolf comes around outside Ambrose's door. He's in a it's a flimsy white door, whatever, and it tries the doorknob for 40 seconds. The werewolf is I don't know what he's doing because they're not showing it, but he's pawing at it, right? And then he's knocking at the door. So then he's pushing on the door do. And the door is behaving like it would be behaving if I was on the other side of it, politely knocking to tell Nick that pizza was coming. And then he blows through the door like it's tissue paper because he's an enormous werewolf. What was he doing before? Why is he Like, and then he just knocks the door down like he's like the strongest creature alive.
Yeah, I didn't.
And the reason that happened is because they want to give you shots of characters cowering in terror. I'm sorry, that attack is on the old lady. Then he comes over to Ambrose, but it's the same concept. So like, but that's the thing is like, the director wanted to cut to a lady cowering in terror, hiding behind her walker while the door trembled, and then he wanted to give you the jump scare of the werewolf coming through the door. The director wanted that play out that way, but it was ridiculous.
Yeah,
how he's trying to give you a visual. But there's no reason why a werewolf would politely knock and paw at a doorknob for 45 seconds before blowing a door down. It can clearly...
The raptors in Jurassic Park understood after a few seconds. They're like, let me try this. Nah, it's not really working out. Let's plan B.
That's totally
Let's go, Rick.
And then, so the werewolf kills this old lady who's hiding behind his door. And then we cut to the gore shot, right? So like
she's like holding her guts.
She's holding her guts, but what is clearly a pile of guts on top of her stomach. Like it's like they laid them on her.
Yeah.
Like they're not... It looks
I
literally
thought that too,
like, right?
When I saw that scene.
Right. It looks like she's just holding a pile of goo on top of herself. Like it's not, they made no effort to make it look like it was ever inside of her. It was just like, lay down. We're going to put this on top of you. Just look dead.
Yeah.
That's bad, right? Like
it wasn't good.
No. But then the crime of the horror movie century is what happens next, right? Because the werewolf fights Ambrose's seeing eye dog, who's a great dog, dog actor. Good job, Shadow. Shadow defends his
he goes after him like 2 or 3 times. I believe,
again, he goes after him for 3 minutes because that scene is. You remember in Ed Wood when Martin Landau has to fight with the octopus that has no motor and he's like, got to throw the legs around, whatever. There's 3 minutes of the werewolf dancing with this dog in shadow while he's groping for Ambrose is groping for bullets to put in his gun.
Which if he was like a veteran and like this hardened thing, like I would just think this,
right?
If I was a director, I would think like he'd be like, oh my god, my dog's dying. I'm blind. I'm not gonna grab these bullets. So you think he would just go after the thing because he can't fucking see. He doesn't know. Yeah,
he's not moving very fast, but that's because the director doesn't want him to move fast because the director wants this fight to extend, right? So, or his movie would be 60 minutes long. So we get this 3-minute dance where there's a guy in a werewolf suit clearly dancing with a fake dog.
There wasn't. To me,
or CGI dog or whatever.
Other than like me being like, I hope his dog doesn't die. Like there wasn't tension.
No,
there wasn't tension like there was in Wolfen.
This movie is not scary. It's not tense and it's not scary. And right, that's totally true. But crime of the century. Go ahead, Nick, tell him what happens next. So,
my crime of the century is what happens after what you think it was. So, anyways, the dog has like 3, like. Not even like huge wounds in him. Like it looks like the kind of shit that like you see on like those like dog commercials where it's like donate 25 cents. It looks like one of those dogs that like been abused, but you're like,
yeah, the werewolf clawed him.
Yeah, you're just like anyways, it doesn't look fatal.
Right. And that dog's a fighter. We know that.
Yeah, and he's like panting and breathing and like he's not like bleeding all over the place. It's not like his guts have been placed on top of him by the effects person on set. And then after then he gets his bullets and his gun. Yeah, and then he puts one in Shadow's noggin.
Yeah, his owner gropes the wound because he can't see it, assesses that his dog's been mortally wounded, and then shoots his dog in the head. No attempt to take him to the vet. No long.
Even though the next scene it cuts, they're at the vet.
Right.
If I was the vet, I'd be like, why the fuck did you shoot him? He could have lived.
Cause of death, gunshot.
Yeah, like that's the cause. Like
right. Autopsy done.
Like he was scratched, but he wasn't dying by any stretch of the imagination. But that's not my crime of the century.
Okay.
Dogs dying in films does suck.
Yeah, I don't like dogs dying in a movie, but I particularly don't like blind owners assessing
unless the dog pulls like a thing and like the dog like becomes like this big giant monster because like that's fucking cool because then it's like, hey, that's clearly not your dog. That's just a fucking weird thing. Not the case.
Right.
Shadow could have lived.
I agree.
My crime of the century is for the writer after his neighbor had her guts ripped out. Mm-hmm. He's been attacked in this place. He just moved in there day one.
Because this is like a retirement community sort of.
His dog's dead.
Yes.
Crime of the century.
He's covered in blood.
He Yeah, he's still covered in blood. When they go back, he's still wearing the bloody T-shirt. Yep. Crime of the century. He fucking stays.
And his son lets him. His son who moved his father into the retirement community. And so here's how the scene goes. Ambrose comes back to the scene of the crime. The door's been blown open. The wall's been blown through, right? Ambrose wanders back in with a bloody shirt, and he meets the daughter of the old lady next door who got killed.
Who got her guts ripped out.
Who got her guts handed politely to her to lay on top
by
of
the
her.
effects guy.
And then what happens next is the daughter bursts into tears and goes, I knew I shouldn't have moved my mom in here after I heard all the stories. So then the stories are that there's attacks here all the time. So then the police show up, and the police are like, they turn to the blind guy and they go, make sure you stay inside behind locked doors at night because of all the attacks that happen here. So they were attacks. The police are telling him to hide and stay behind a locked door, even though they're investigating a crime scene where the door got blown through because they're both idiots. Like, stay inside behind the door that doesn't exist anymore. Like, what?
That's my favorite part. And then just lock your doors and your windows. Like
the new door we were about to put in, lock that one, right?
This door's busted.
And then, on top of all that, the son of the father assesses all of this, the stories, the attacks, like whatever. And he's like, so Dad, have a great night. We picked the right place for you. I'm sure this will be fine. And then he goes off and gets a sandwich or whatever. What? No.
No, you don't stay there.
No, but you have to stay there because the director and the writer need you to be in that place, right? That's what I'm saying is the director and writer
and here's the thing.
Sacrificing,
here's the thing.
All plausibility. Yes.
Here's what I want to mention. Was the fact that they talk about this town so much in the film. Mm-hmm. Like the town's supposed to be this like retirement community. Like they try to make it a character, but it's never a character in the film.
Nope. It could have been. They were trying, but they just didn't pull it off.
Like it had the groundwork to be like the Stepford Wives, which is like where they tried to have. In fact, they had one of the women from the Stepford Wives, the '60s version, in there, but the town never had that feel to it.
No, it could have been like an Antonio Bay situation. Like
yeah,
it totally could have given you that vibe if they'd pulled it off. But they the shots were so cheap and the cinematography was so bad, and the characters were talking such nonsense during that. So here, I got a statistical fact for you. Right,
okay.
If you're a werewolf fan, right, you're gonna love this movie. I'll tell you why. Because the first time you see a werewolf in this movie is 17 minutes in. Mm-hmm. And then when do you think the next time you see a werewolf is?
Shit. An hour and 10.
Hour 15.
No.
I wish they just made it hour 17. That way you could have said it was a full hour before you see another werewolf, right?
Yeah.
So this is a werewolf movie with an hour of no werewolf. Right? Like, are you kidding?
Well, to be fair, you see the werewolf before
he transforms.
Before he's a transform in a really cheesy scene. Right. So before we get to that scene, we have to talk about why the main character's in this place. So the town's never a character.
Right.
It could have easily been this scary, weird place where weird shit happens.
It should have been. Right.
Never happens.
No.
So the one thing that they keep referring to throughout the film is the tombstones. Mm-hmm. They go to this guy who sells tombstones twice.
That's the opening shot of the movie.
Yeah. So the first time they're there, they're looking at tombstones, and he's like, I'm gonna need one soon because I'm so fucking old. And he looks at the big cross in the beginning, I believe.
He doesn't look at it.
He doesn't look at it, but it's there.
He's blind.
Oh, what? Oh, I was like, fuck off. No. They clearly were gonna do some shit with it.
Right.
His son saw him feeling.
Yes,
the big one.
Correct.
He's like, you can't afford that.
Right.
So they mentioned this big tombstone. It looks like just a big cross in the beginning of the film, and then later on in the film, he buys this big tombstone that looks like it looks like one of those just like, I don't know, 5 feet tall, 6 feet tall.
Yeah, it looks huge and heavy and
like super heavy.
And this is 10 minutes of this damn movie is him ordering this thing. Like he rush orders it.
And it's for his dog
over the price
in the backyard.
Right.
He digs the grave
of the dog he murdered.
Of the dog he could have clearly saved.
Right.
# Shadow could have lived.
Yes.
And then during the end of the film, and this is just like this is one of the weird things they set up, doesn't have a lot of payoff, which is one of many in this film. He digs the grave, right? He doesn't hire anyone or himself put the dirt back, so he just has this open grave with his.
And the cops complain about it. When they visit him, they're like, "It smells like dead dog."
Well, thanks, Ryder. Like that. Glad we got that cleared up. Fucking put the dirt. So they talk about this goddamn tombstone quite a while in the film, and then during the big werewolf attack at the end, a werewolf somehow goes into the grave.
No, it's a booby trap. He has this plan. The blind guy has this plan.
So he tries to Home Alone.
Yeah, because he does Home Alone it. He absolutely does. Because when he comes back out of his house, he does his count. Like he counted the steps to get to the point, and he pulls a rope. And the rope topples somehow the cross because
No, but the werewolf has to make it into the...
Yeah, right. The werewolf's in the grave underneath the cross. The cross is like towering over
above him, and then he pulls the rope,
and the cross falls. Which this is the payoff for this because we spent 10 minutes acquiring this cross as viewers, right? So the cross falls on the werewolf, bunks him in the head, which mildly inconveniences him for like 5 seconds. Then he jumps out of the
jumps
grave.
Right out of the thing. Kevin McAllister can hit you with a paint can, and that stops you longer than like a 500-pound.
And this guy served in Nam. I think he should be better at booby traps than Kevin McAllister.
He's probably seen some shit, but Kevin McAllister like could have given him some tips. Like I know he's blind. Okay, I get it.
Right.
But like,
but he's also superhuman. He can shoot people by hearing where they are.
Yeah, he's like Daredevil.
He's an amazing physical fighter, which brings us to one of his great physical conflicts. So there's a great moment in this movie, and this is again my thing about the director. Not all he's thinking about what he needs. He needs you not to know midway through the movie who the werewolf is. He's got to keep you guessing because it's a twist, right? Mm-hmm. But he wants an action sequence where the werewolf threatens the blind guy. So the werewolf sneaks up on the blind guy while he's digging the grave for his dog. Midway through the movie, right? The blind guy's totally alone, like completely all alone in a field with no one within, like whatever. The werewolf... the werewolf has met the blind guy prior to this, so he knows who he is, right? That's why he's targeting him, right?
Yeah.
So he sneaks up on the blind guy, but luckily the werewolf is in a full head-to-toe cloak.
Against a blind guy.
Because you wouldn't want the blind guy to figure out who you are. What? And then the blind guy basically, Ambrose, winds up the shovel, telegraphs that he's going to hit him with it, snarls a one-liner at him, like I can smell you, you bitch. I recognize your smell, and then clocks him because the werewolf makes no effort to dodge this blow, right? Like because what? Like why would you get in disguise to attack a blind man? Because the problem is the director couldn't figure out how to solve this problem because we can see him.
Yeah.
So he had to disguise him, right? Like unbelievable.
In the town,
it's comical.
and the other reason is one argument would be, you don't want anyone else in the town.
There's no one else around.
That because they didn't make the town a character.
Right. And he walks around the whole time, not in disguise, and other scenes menacing and attacking people. He only disguises himself one time, this time, because the director can't have us know who
the one thing I did like about that guy, though, was when he was going door to door and biting people in the arm.
That was a great concept.
I love that idea of he's just like, he's in panic mode. He's like,
I need help. Yeah, he's going to bite people and change him over. And I thought that was really cool. But so then there's nothing, in a movie when it's trying to tell you what its theme is, because the theme of this movie is sacrifice.
Yeah.
And the sacrifices you have to make, and the sacrifice this guy made as a veteran, and the sacrifices sons make for their fathers, and father make for their sons. And I know it's the theme because we get it dropped in a 2-minute sermon from the priest character. Who just tells you, here's what my movie's about. Like, lazy. I mean...
Yeah, it was pretty bad.
You don't have to just say it to us.
No.
Like, that's like sending someone... Like, I'm watching a movie and there's a knock on the door and the door opens up and it's like a message. Like, fucking Western Union. Like, here's what... I detected you were watching my movie here. I just want to explain to you the whole fucking movie. No.
Yeah, no, I didn't. Right. I was not a fan of that scene. I do like that actor. The way he
was amazing. He was really good. Most of the actors were good.
Yeah, I really liked them. Even the Stepford Wivesy kind of women. Even though some, I think they were a little over the top. like acting like how rude this guy was, and they just couldn't believe it.
Right.
Like even like that wasn't bad.
Now the dumb shit they were saying wasn't believable, but the way they presented it was believable. It was a pretty good cast.
I think all of them. Even the son was pretty.
Yep.
Was pretty good. But the one thing that with the priest, because even though you're a good actor, I'm not letting you get away with this one thing that just really, just kind of weirded us out. Like the cigarettes.
Yeah, it was bad.
It was just like he was like, "Hey, you got a cigarette," and then the priest is like almost done.
The blind guy keeps bumming cigarettes from the priest, right? And every time he asks the priest, like, "Do you have a cigarette?" the priest just grabs whatever cigarette he happens to be smoking and just pops it into Ambrose's mouth, like
just really
like
fast.
You're putting a quarter in a vending machine.
Yeah, like
it's like a ninja move.
And
of like
it was just really
he's
weird.
so good at putting cigarettes into people's mouths. It's very strange.
It just felt really weird. Like I don't know.
Yeah,
it was just a weird thing where I was like, does that seem like weird to you? Like
it was really strange.
Like kind of like.
But see, it's also against character because again, it's poor writing because. This guy can dig graves for his own dog. He takes care of himself. He takes care of his own apartment. He doesn't let his son do anything. He's totally self-sufficient, right? He's like the don't breathe character.
Yeah.
Like he doesn't need anyone's help, right? The priest can easily, I mean, he could have handed the guy a cigarette. This guy would have lit it and taken care of it all himself, no problem. But no, he's blind, so I'm just going to do it for you. And
And it just felt weird. The moment felt so fucking weird.
The whole.
Any other director would have been like, ah.
And the payoffs in this movie are so poor. So like, the movie did the thing that like for example the Friday the 13th remake where they give you the total hate character that you just can't wait for this guy to die, right? And then he dies, right? So that character in this movie is the tool who mans the security gate for the retirement community. He's rude to everybody. He's rude to the blind guy. He's rude to the blind guy's son, right? Mm-hmm. And then there's a great shot, and it's night, and it's a moon, and the werewolf creeps up on the gate, and I'm like, finally, some action, right? And the gate guy squeals, runs out of the movie. Gone.
That's it.
That's it.
No payoff.
You didn't kill the only character I wanted to see die. Mm-hmm. He just jets. Thanks, movie.
And they could have killed him in sort of like a howling type of way with like the files and the papers.
Totally.
They could have done something like that. Just interjected a little bit of comedy into it, and they could have made it such a good scene. Of course, I say I could. This is where the night. You know what? I'm not gonna be nice to this movie. I'm nice about every goddamn horror film. I'm so nice about everything because I'm like, I worked in film, so I'm like, it's really hard to make a movie. Like,
no,
but like, I just can't. I can't do it. I went into this movie so fucking stoked. And I'm so mad. I'm so mad.
I know.
It makes me excited for Max Landis' American Werewolf remake.
All right, let's wrap this movie up with. Do you have anything else? Because I'm going to do the last shot of the movie.
I just want to talk about the fight scene.
Go.
Because that's what the whole fucking film's leading up to is.
Right.
And Good Bad Flicks, the way he described the film was blind guy gets attacked, realizes he has like 30, 31 days until the next attack, and prepares.
Yes.
Not a lot of preparing. It's a lot of grave digging and weird scenes and cigarette putting in your mouth type scenes.
Right.
Which that concept is really fucking cool. It could have been done better.
Yes.
But the ending fight scene with there's 3 werewolves, right? So it's 3-1.
It's all the people that guys run around changing.
Yeah. And the guy in the iron lung, that had no payoff either.
No, I mean it was like a glimpse of blood, but
it was weird.
Right.
So anyways, the big finale for me, and this is my last thing on the film, is it's 3-1, 3 wolves to 1 blind guy, right?
Right.
And he knocks off 2 of them.
Yep.
Immediately.
Yep.
So the guy went around recruiting those other 2 women to be werewolves with him.
Yep.
And then they're gone like that.
Yeah.
By a gunshot.
He didn't count on the blind guy being so,
Yeah, but still.
Amazing.
Like you knocked off 2 of them pretty quick.
He totally did. Absolutely.
And I mean, I liked the part where like the werewolf's there and his son's calling. That was good tension. Yep. That was good tension in the film. Yep. Good example of it.
Yep.
But I just feel like, we've already the death of the main character did not feel as heroic as it should have.
Agreed. And also there's just no way to make a scary movie where your main creature is bested by someone at an enormous disadvantage. so easily. And we'll get into this in Wolfen because it's totally different. It's the opposite.
Completely
did it
different.
so much better. But the thing is, I understand that he had time to prepare, and I understand that he was a vet, and I understand that he set up some booby traps.
But
whatever.
show us
But
more.
the booby trap fails, and then the werewolf charges him, and then they're literally in a physical fist fight. And if you're a werewolf who can't fist fight Ambrose, this character, and come off better. I mean, this werewolf gets his ass kicked.
Yeah.
Like bad. Like, right?
He gets smacked with a shovel.
He smacked with a shovel, and then Ambrose stakes him in the eyes and shoots
That's
him.
right.
I mean, this werewolf gets a beat down, right? So these werewolves are not scary. Ambrose is the scariest.
He probably could have just killed him like in the first attack in the beginning of the film and just ended it.
Yeah, and that's fine. I mean, that's, you wrote yourself into a corner. That's how that has to go. He's gonna kill the whatever. But Ambrose is the scariest character in this movie.
Yeah,
not the werewolf.
And they never mention like where the wolf comes from. The main werewolf in this film says he just wandered into the woods and got attacked.
Right,
and then that's all.
Right. Yeah.
So at the end of the movie, there's still werewolves.
Yeah.
out in the woods.
Right.
So okay.
Well, there's still werewolves, but guess what? It does. There's not anymore.
A moon.
A moon. Anyone who's listening right now, if it's nighttime, I want you to look up. Is it uncommonly dark? I'll tell you why it's uncommonly dark. The moon's not there anymore because the last shot of this movie
is a prequel to George Méliès's Church of the Moon.
Yes. Is this Ambrose's son and his girlfriend or wife, whatever she is, standing at his grave, accepting the flag, accepting the colors, seeing, their dad, the son seeing his dad's funeral. And then he takes the gun that they used to fire the shots in the air to honor vets, and he sights it at the moon, and he shoots a bullet at the moon, and that's the end of the movie because the moon's dead.
The moon's gone.
Right, like that's it.
That's it, man.
Right.
The movie Moon doesn't exist no more.
Yep, it's gone.
It's not a thing.
So yeah, that was. I mean, it was so corny and wrong, and like that's the thing is this movie tripped over itself every chance it got to give you like a symbol or a metaphor for something that I thought it was important, and it was just so clumsy and wrong. And
I think Ozzy had a song "Howl at the Moon."
Yes,
I think that music video is a better werewolf movie.
I think it is too. I like that video.
I think it is too. So that's late
so
phases.
That's late phases. Sorry that
normally we just gush about films we like, but like
I mean, there's nothing we could do about this one. That was not what we expected.
No, but it was fun trashing it while we watched it.
I actually feel bad. Like I meant what I said at the top. Like I would rather it was something like Troll 2.
One more thing before,
because you had a great cast and
it was great. And if it was more Troll 2, Thanksgiving, like those types of films, fine. But one more thing I just want to mention, because this was mentioned in the reviews quite a bit.
The
father-son thing.
Right.
I don't think it played out.
I didn't see that in there. I mean, a lot of the reviews were like this movie really hit an emotional core of a father-son relationship, but like I didn't see it there. Like they interacted the way a typical father who doesn't show any of his feelings to a son do is sort of cliche, and then they were sort of mean to each other, and then
one phone call at the end,
one phone call fixes everything, and then he's at it. He's now all of a sudden, he's
dead.
Well, now he's going to become a werewolf hunter or whatever. And by the way, this is one of the few werewolf movies I've ever seen where they just give away the whole game. There are dead werewolves everywhere now in this town. That means it's now worldwide news that werewolves exist. But we don't see any of that.
And the son sees a werewolf.
Right, yeah, but it doesn't matter. They're laying everywhere. They don't change back into anything.
He doesn't freak out. He just goes,
"Oh yeah, werewolf."
Oh yeah, werewolf. Yeah. That's why I moved you here, Dad. Anyways,
I can't wait to move on for this movie.
No. That's it. That's it. Late phases. Get out of our lives.
Late phases.
So now,
but you know what? I honestly, like, if you love werewolf movies, I know there's a lot of people who love this movie. There are things to see in there that are decent. It does not hold together.
No, don't watch. Even if you like werewolf movies, don't watch it. Follow Rick Baker.
I'm proud of you going down.
No. If you want to see something cool, follow Rick Baker on Twitter. He just posted amazing Halloween makeup he did. He did the fucking pig people from the Twilight Zone. I call them the pig people.
Yeah.
Him and his family all did that.
That's awesome.
And it was fucking great. So if you want to see at least cool looking shit, follow the guy who mastered it.
Watch Twitter.
Spend your time watching his Frankenstein creation video if he's still doing that.
Right.
Do that. don't watch this movie.
All right, but there is a movie you should watch.
It feels good to be bad.
Uh-oh.
All right.
Mike's gone.
All right. Time for a really fantastic movie.
Yeah,
so kick it off.
Cleanse our palate.
1981, not same year. It is for American.
Yes.
Wolfen.
And Howling, right. Okay, so for those of you who haven't seen Wolfen, the brief synopsis is Detective Dewey Wilson is called out of what seems to be a forced retirement to investigate a series of gruesome murders taking place across New York City, in which the victims are literally ripped to shreds by some type of animal. And then as he investigates, he realizes that there's a lot of confusion about who's doing the killing and what's motivating them. So this is Wolfen. So I'm just going to come out and say, like, this is a masterpiece. It's not only one of the best werewolf movies ever made, but I think it's one of the best horror movies ever made. It's not perfect, but
it's not your typical werewolf.
No. A lot of people don't even count it as a werewolf, but I'm not even going to deal with that because it is a werewolf movie.
It is. I do think it definitely is a werewolf movie, but it's not. If you want to see an American werewolf transformation, you're not going to get it in this film.
Nope.
But instead, what you're going to do is you're going to get a fantastic fucking story.
Yep.
A great detective thriller story.
Yep.
That is one, I thought, better shot, better sound design, way better sound design.
Yep.
I just think on the filming aspects of it, I just think it does laps around late phases.
Well, yeah, they're not even close. So let's do a little background though. This director is a really interesting story. He was born in Akron, Ohio.
Represent.
He only has 2 major film credits that I can find, and not much else that are even minor. One is this movie, and one is the Academy Award-winning documentary of Woodstock Festival. So this is a horror director. So they put the Woodstock documentary that he directed, they put it into the U.S. Film Registry as a national treasure. So this, and Halloween is also in that registry, but I don't think any other horror movies that are in there. If they are, they're probably old classics, however. But this is a horror director who made almost no movies, but he's a director in the genre, and he also has a movie in the national treasure. This is an amazing story, and it's weird that he hadn't done other stuff. I'd love to know why. But this movie, the other movie took every chance it could to make its characters do something ridiculous so it would give you something it thought was a cool shot. This movie takes every chance it can to give you just a cool shot and do something interesting. Like, I'm telling you, there's a scene midway through this movie where the detective and his partner, I guess at this point is what she is because she's working with him on the case, they go to a church, which is kind of the epicenter of some of the wolf activity. And it's like this rundown, dilapidated church. The cross has been stolen off the walls and, it's broken down. And I went back and watched that scene after Nick and I watched it. And you could take that 5-minute scene, because there's almost no dialogue in it, and you could put it on a speaker and play it outside your house on Halloween night, and it would work perfectly. The sounds are amazing. The little howls in the background, the creepy doors and steps, it's just like the sound quality of this movie is incredible that you're hearing all these interesting sounds through the course of the movie, windmills turning and the thunk 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 of the windmills turning as the wolves approach. You got wind chimes, you got the sounds in New York, it's
the sounds you hear from the wolf's perspective.
Good, yeah.
And that's the shot that they use throughout the film a lot. And oh my God, the writing was just so good because it's a detective thing. So they talk about, whether the science of it is accurate it doesn't matter. For me, I bought everything they said in the film.
Right.
But the one guy who played the priest in late phases, he played an animal expert in Wolfen, and he was still fucking fantastic. But the one thing I liked about him is, very, very early in the movie, you see shots that are very unnatural because it's nighttime in New York City. And then when you switch to these weird POV shots that look very similar to something like The Evil Dead, it looks like broad daylight.
Yep.
And then later on in the film, that character describes all the attributes of wolves. And he's like, they can see, almost damn near perfect at nighttime. They can hear very well. And those are the same things that the wolves in the film
he describes exactly what you're gonna see is true.
Right. So I mean, the cinematography
was crazy good and interesting, and it took chances. And this movie scared the crap out of me when I was a kid.
Yeah.
So like, it's authentically scary. And one of the things I like about horror movies is that do it right is this movie works in subtle fears that aren't just the creature fears, right? So like, I'm scared of heights. There's scenes on top of bridges in this movie that made me want to hyperventilate, right?
They're just running around.
Right.
These New York City bridges.
Right. It's, crazy. And they're doing fast POV shots on the bridges, and they're doing, like, there's this great scene where Albert Finney, the detective, goes up to interrogate someone on top of the bridge.
He interrogates Edward James
Olmos. Yeah.
Almost. So if you like Battlestar Galactica and you were thinking, I'd like to see him hang dong, this is the movie for you.
Yeah, he is naked in this movie a little bit. But that's the thing is like
that bridge scene.
He goes up to interrogate him, and the guy's mocking him, and Albert Finney's in a safety harness, and the guy unhooks it, and it's so threatening.
But before they do that shot, it shows him working his way up because he has like the two hooks.
Yep.
So it shows him taking his time, not being very comfortable. They
set it up right.
And then he gets on top and he unhooks him.
And the guy just, while he's talking to him, the detective's pressing him like, I'm in a power position, like I'm interrogating you, like you have to answer my questions. And the guy Edward James Olmos just smiles and unhooks him. And that's all it takes. It's the best, like, unspoken threat I've ever seen in a horror movie. It's genius.
And then the line afterwards was really pretty intimidating. He was just telling me, he goes, basically he was like sort of hinting at who you think is the werewolf can change. He goes, it's all in your mind, man.
Oh yeah,
it's all in your mind. He goes, just think you're an eagle on the way down.
That's amazing.
He's just like, you'll be fine. Just think you're an eagle. You'll fly right away.
Right. So they work in these real life terrors, terror of crime in your city, terror of society falling apart, terror of, it doesn't matter if you're wealthy, you're not safe. Terror of there's so many different kinds of scares in this movie, all working together. Like, it's so good.
And what we were talking about is the camera, the cinematographer really took a lot of chances. Like, he shot through a lot of stuff. Like you mentioned, like the windmill, and then the one thing we talked about when we were watching it was like the sniper scope.
You see through so many colors. You see some of the shots are green because you're looking through a scope. Some of the shots are like colored, like almost like an acid trip, because you're seeing from the thermal wolf vision.
And then when they have that weird security company who's interrogating people, you're watching them speak to see if they're telling the truth or not. So like you're seeing all these characters like almost inside and out.
Totally. It's so visually interesting. This is one of the few horror movies I think that I would try to watch with no sound, and then I would also just listen to it and not watch it, because I just feel like it's got interesting elements in both categories all the way through, which is rare.
And I really I think the POV shot of the werewolf was just genius, because well, the best thing what they did though is in the beginning of the film they showed the two Indian guys who end up being the wolves or whatever. But what I really loved is you see the POV shot from both angles.
Yes.
So you're down on the ground.
Yeah.
You're seeing this couple walking, and then it cuts to like, regular film, like them just walking through the park. Then it cuts that same camera, completely different era, and you're like, what the fuck's going on? Right. Oh my God, there's two of them.
Yep.
And you mentioned Jurassic Park, the raptor scene. The raptors are making a lot of appearances in this episode.
They are.
That's strange. But it was very similar to that, of them just hunting in packs.
When the raptor was hunting the hunter at the end, and then he goes, clever girl, because it attacks him from the side, which is that flank attack. And every attack in this movie is a flank attack. It's not coming from where you think it's coming from.
And most of the time, you don't see it like third person. Like, you're not watching your character get attacked. I think almost a good bit of the attacks you see from the POV of the wolf.
Yes. Almost all of them.
Yeah. Like the people in the beginning, the like cracked out dude that's wandering through. Yep. It's all just the really quick shots of the wolf. Like I just think everything they did about this film, all the chances they took, really pay off.
And that's, I'm glad you said payoff, because that's the thing is, like we were talking about with the late phases where there were no payoffs. anytime they drop something in, there was a payoff for it. So like they give you this really disturbing spiel at the beginning about what happens to people who get decapitated and how long are they how long is the head aware, and they don't drop that. There's a call out to it at the end, right? Like
this movie is about 2 hours long. They tell you that shit like 25.
Oh, it's like 5 minutes in, actually. Like it's well, maybe
it was a little later
after the murder scene
because you meet the detective guy,
right? But it's pretty soon in the right.
Yeah, and then they call out to that like almost 10 minutes before the film ends. Like it's so good. Oh my god! And we mentioned tension in late phases. Tension in this movie. I know we're sort of jumping all over the place just because I just think this is such a perfect film. We can land anywhere and talk about it, and it's just great. But there was one scene that I thought that did tension so well. So at the end, the Albert Finney's character is looking at the wolves, and they're actual wolves.
Yes.
Like they're hunting in pack wolves. But let's talk about that for a minute.
Yes.
The fact that they're actually wolves.
Well, in the original book, what they are is the next step in wolf evolution. So they're wolves with sort of like a human intelligence or higher. The movie makes it a little more mystical, where they seem to have other kind of powers besides just being a smart wolf, right? Mm-hmm. So, but there's actually a moment in the movie where when Albert Finney's pressing the characters who might know what's happening, they respond with they could be gods. Like it's really, it's left up in the air about what exactly.
And then they bring that up they bring up the god thing again.
Yep.
And the bar scene when shit finally kind of starts crumbling around the main detective. But there's a scene at the end that, like, if you want to see like textbook like way to do tension in a film, at the end of the film, they're in this high-rise apartment where the guy who they killed in the beginning, who's going to build this big condominium where their land is, which they're clearly against. Right. He's the main character's there, and then the wolves all sort of like materialize into this room. And holy fucking shit, he looks at the wolves. He has his gun. It cuts to the wolf's POV, and it is a close up. Like that wolf is just staring directly at his eyes. Yep. It's almost sort of like the Silence of the Lambs nighttime shot.
Yep.
But it just like the camera and the editor just hung on his eyes for like it felt like an eternity. And you see him, and the way he acted he was so nervous. He was like looking like kind of like to the left, but like trying to keep focus on the main wolf. But like, god damn it, they hung on his eyes for so long.
It was a great sequence.
And I was like because the movie's 81 and like it feels very 80s. It doesn't feel as timeless as something like American Werewolf.
Sure.
But like during that scene, like dude, I bought it. Like I was like, I didn't know what the next move was going to be from either character. Like it felt like something out of like Fistful of Dollars or like Good, the Bad, Good, Good, Bad, and the Ugly.
And the amazing thing is everybody in that room at that moment was waiting for what those two were going to do, because his partner has her gun out. And if he starts firing, she obviously going to start firing, right?
Yeah.
So she's waiting for his lead. Like, what's he going to do? Because she knows that he's figured out something, but she doesn't know what. And the lead wolf is just staring him down, and the other ones are just waiting to see like how this goes down, right? And
even talking about it,
right? I know. And the visuals. Think about what the director did. He's got like the blinds are all mirrored glass. Like
it's like very 80s,
right? Totally.
80s
but
chic.
That gives you this opportunity of you don't know exactly where they're standing. You don't know exactly who's moving where because you're getting reflections and weird visuals. Like
the wolves know, but the humans are clearly exactly. Like,
and the viewer doesn't.
Yeah, so you're
kind of disoriented.
Yeah, that's exactly how I felt. Like I didn't have a sense of like how the room was laid out, and you see the room in broad daylight. So like you're in a place that you've seen in the film before,
right?
But during that scene, you have no idea where you're at, and you feel just as lost and confused, and like just like the power.
Yep.
Almost if you like the power plays in like Whiplash, like it's sort of not as like. Cursing at you, yelling style, but like the power plays in that film, I think we're just on par with.
And unlike almost any other horror movie I can think of, it ends on a note of non-violence, right? Yeah. Because they decide the detective decides to stand down, and and not initiate this war that he knows he's going to lose anyway. But he makes the smart choice and saves his life and his friend's life or girlfriend's life at this point. But it ends on a note of figuring something. You put in the work to figure out who was doing this crimes, what was happening, and then you actually made a smart decision based on the work that you did.
Yeah.
Right? The movie ends with someone making a smart decision, right? Instead of giving you some cheap, violent showdown like normal, right? So so there's this really brief scene in here that I think is like a perfect example of how this movie gives you a theme without giving you a goddamn priest telling you for 2 minutes what the theme is. It just gives it to you in the scene and walks away and doesn't have to tell you what it is, right? So there's this great moment when the animal expert, Tom Noonan, he wants to figure out if the wolves are really out there.
So funny. The same guy who gave us the speech about the film.
I know, is the one who's my example of not needing to do this. It's perfect. So he makes a phone call. He calls in a fake call to the fire department saying that there's a fire. The reason he does that is he wants this fire truck to drive to a certain address that goes past where he thinks the wolves live or are hanging out. And when the sirens go by, he knows as an animal expert, it's going to rile them up and they're going to start howling, which is a more interesting idea in 10 seconds than anything that happened in late phases. So he gets on his motorcycle, he rides out and he hangs out under this tunnel and the fire truck goes by and then you start to hear wolves and they're howling after the sirens, it just gives me chill thinking about it. It's just creepy sounding, right? So, and it's the best moment. He goes under his breath, he hears them howling, he smiles a little and he goes, I knew you were here. And that's it, right? So then there's a growling nearby and he realizes he's hung out there too long and he takes off on his motorcycle. And as he gets back out from under the tunnel, he gets scared because he feels a presence, but he keeps driving faster. And then a wolf jumps out of nowhere and just kills him. And it's on the path that he came because guess what this movie's telling you? As a human, you're smart enough to figure out that you know that they're there. They know something better. They know where you're going.
Yeah.
Right. And that's it. Like, that's the theme of the movie is they're figuring it out. They're expert hunters and you can't underestimate them. And the movie doesn't have to tell you all that. It just shows it to you, which is how you should do it. Right. It's like, it's just an amazing moment of there's a thing in a movie where I forget who did it. Damn it. There's a famous character who goes, I know something better. I'll think of it. But anyway, that's the thing is the wolves know something better. It doesn't matter if you know where someone is. If you know where you're going, you're dead. And they do. And they get them. So, it's just an amazing. There's so many interesting ideas in this movie. Think about the diseased organs.
Yeah.
Right? Like the murder victims are all getting found and they're mostly consumed except for you find a stray liver or a stray lung or stray whatever. But the coroner puts together that the organs that aren't being eaten have diseases. So they're not eating like a cirrhosis liver or a lung cancer lung or whatever. They're literally rejecting the bad parts as they eat them, which is such a cool.
It's almost sort of like what the fillings and the prequel to the Thing did.
Yes,
it's along those same lines.
Totally along those same lines.
Except they're not figuring out who Alien is.
Right.
No, but I just there's just so much good stuff, and like honestly, like there's something weird about like I can't describe it what it is visually about it, but there's certain films that like when they're set in like the 70s and 80s, like they in New York City, it feels grimy, like I need a shower, and I don't know why it is. Like two other movies were filmed that same year, but I don't feel that same way. But the way they shot this detective-y crime show, like it just made me feel like it it made the city of New York feel like I felt like everyone was drinking black coffee out of a styrofoam cup. I mentioned that when we watched it. I feel like everyone's doing that. I feel like none of the rooms have air conditioning.
Yep.
And I feel like everyone's breath smells like cigarettes.
That's awesome.
But still, even though like I think all that stuff's kind of gross, it still set up a world. Like I could sort of like in my head, like I made all that shit up. Everyone could have had fresh breath and was showered. But in my head, I made all that shit up, and it made the setting of New York.
Because it conveyed it to you. But more importantly than...
Which is weird. That probably sounds weird. People are like, what the fuck is he thinking about?
No, that totally... It sounds perfectly accurate. And that's the thing is, like, the movie, not only does it do that, set up a world for you, but it also, the world matches the theme. So, like...
Yeah.
Mankind is walking around feeling like we're in charge, we're in control. And there's a moment in this movie, and I love that you just brought that up about the grime and the whatever, because there's a moment in this movie where one of the best lines in the movie is when one of the characters who knows what's happening, I think he is actually one of the Wolfen, he's talking to Albert Finney, and he tells Albert Finney, I don't know, maybe they think you're the savages, right? Because what mankind is doing in this movie is savage, and leaves out the one of the scariest scenes in the movie,
which is just ironically,
yes,
thinking about the visuals, because that's when his buddy dies in the church, and he goes to the bar seeking answers.
Yep.
When he says like maybe you're the savage, he's covered in sweat and he's covered in blood,
yeah,
and he
totally.
goes maybe you're the savage because you look like a savage at this moment.
Exactly, and that's what I mean is it matches. And remember, there's a scene where the Wolfen track the animal expert down, and the animal expert's in his place, and he's watching a film of about wolves or something that he compiled about wolves, whatever it is. And there's these horrible scenes of wolves getting shot from helicopters and not dying right away, and it's hard to watch.
Yeah.
And it's scary. And one of the scariest things in this movie is just a reel of what mankind does to the animals on this planet, right? Mm-hmm. So, and it totally gives you you can't be totally against the wolves in this movie now, because they got wiped out. Just like, America moved in and wiped out the Indians, they wiped out the wolves, and the movie gives you sympathies on both sides. So that's why there's actual stakes and suspense at the end.
Yeah.
When they're faced off against each other.
And again, like, I just think the whole, the dialogue in the film too, and like the I think one of my favorite scenes was probably the part where he says, maybe they think you're the savage, because it's that same line. I forget the line exactly, but he mentions like our God has been around. Our God's a lot older than your God, or something like that. Like,
when they're asking about the Wolfen, he goes, this has existed for 10 times longer than your Christian creed has. Like, he just is like, this, you're small.
And then my favorite like acting part, one, that whole scene, he's exhausted. He's like, I just need to know what the fuck's going on. Yeah. Like, if it's like because if you tell him the weirdest shit, he's gonna buy it at this moment. He's like, nothing's as weird as what's been going on these past few days. But the part that I liked was his reaction when he's like, yeah, we have people in like New Orleans. Yeah. We have people all over the place.
Wolves are uprising in all kinds of places.
Yeah,
but nobody knows it.
Yeah, he mentions, he's like, it's not just happening here.
Right.
His reaction, where it's the moment he realized like this was bigger than him.
Yeah.
And he's not Batman. Like, he's not going to be able to. Well, I mean, Batman. There's no reason to fight these guys.
There's no win.
Yeah, there's no win. Right. But the moment of like loss for him, which it's a moment for loss at him at that moment. I think at the end they sort of end it where he's like, yeah, maybe we won't be cocksuckers to each other.
Right.
But in that moment for the scene with that, with the way they set it up, just that moment where you realize, because before that moment, you still think it's an isolated event in New York City.
Yep.
But then they tell you, because I've never thought about that. Whenever you think of a werewolf film, you think of like a town. You think of like there's a werewolf in London.
In one, right?
Yeah, there's one city, but I've never,
except for like Underworld.
Yeah, but that's like the only one.
Right.
But like that was the first time I was like, oh shit! Like, what if the wolves did unionize and
exactly.
started taking over towns?
And I like his character, like he's so matter of fact, the detective, which I really like. Like you end up trusting that he's going to make the right decisions, and that he's no bullshit. Which, like, there's a great moment when they do the interrogation of they're interrogating some terrorists that they think might be doing these killings. And the terrorist says, yeah, these are killings by terrorists, executions, whatever. And the lie detector guy who's watching through the monitor, he's like, nope, she's lying. She doesn't know anything about this. And the head detective, the guy who's over Albert Finney, his boss, is standing next to him, and he's like, Christ, well, where does that leave us? And Albert Finney's like, like this scene just didn't happen. He's like literally like it leaves us like you just wasted my time. Like
I love that.
And it's just such a like straight on assessment of like he's just assessing situations, putting the pieces together, and trying not to go down the rabbit holes of other people who are with bad theories and bad whatever. And you trust him and you get to know him, and it's just a great character to carry with you to the end of the movie. So good.
And I just like that there wasn't one of those big epic fight scenes. Like it ends.
It's epic. It's not a fight, right?
I mean, yeah, it's epic, but it's not in the sense of like other big action, like something like Underworld.
Right.
It's not like them fighting, but like just the way it ends for this character who you're with. Like I don't know. It's sort of like a PSA for like don't be a dick to like the world,
right?
kind of thing. I just
fitting that we're recording this the night before the election.
Well, that's why we're doing this episode. That's why we're doing this epistoepisode.
But there is actually a great confrontation scene before the scene you like in the rich guy's office or apartment, whatever, townhouse, whatever it is. But on the ground, which is where when the lieutenant gets,
yeah.
But that confrontation when they're just walking and they're in a space that looks so under control by mankind. Like we built all this. It's like this big epic. We said when we were watching it looked like
Gotham City.
Like Gotham City.
Which is weird that we bring up Batman.
Right. Like where Penguin gave his speech.
Yeah. Yeah. You said it looked like where the Penguin gives a speech where he says he's going to play the city like a
Heart from Hell.
Heart from Hell.
Yeah.
But I thought it looked more like the scene when the Joker takes the pen and like hits the guy in the neck.
Yeah, exactly.
But it doesn't matter.
Right, but no, because it's this huge architecture. Like we stamped because building is actually a theme in this movie. The movie starts with a building getting blown up and coming down, and ends with a model of buildings getting demolished. Right. So this is a theme of the movie. But there's this huge, imposing Gothic building, and there's these people walking through it like we own everything. We're mankind, like whatever. And all of a sudden, they are surrounded by the scariest fucking wolves I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And the wolves, at this point, because the movie did the work, like it set it up because it knows what it's doing. That what's going to happen to these people is that they're not going to get attacked from the direction they think they're going to get attacked from.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as they pull something, they're going to get attacked from the side or from behind. They're not
all of it.
They're not all of it. They're not going to see it coming. So they're surrounded by these wolves, and it's just this really amazing confrontation scene that is. I mean, it's scary, and that's what a horror movie should be.
I loved it. I loved Wolfen. I mean, when I gotta be honest, when the film started up, I was like, well, this is gonna be a long movie.
Right.
I don't know if I'm gonna dig this.
It's not really the fastest movie.
No, and honestly, it's kind of slow, but like I feel like it's so funny. If someone else tells me a film's a slow burn, but you'll love it, I'm like, fuck you. It's going to be slow. But here I am. It's a slow burn, and you're going to love it.
Well, they don't. Believe me, this movie doesn't go an hour late phases before showing you.
But even with other action. But even with slow burn horror films, it's usually very slow.
Right.
With a little bit of character building, a little bit of world building. This at least feels like a CSI episode in a horror film with werewolves. So at least between the slow werewolf stuff in between, you're getting really cool sciencey, well-written dialogue and shit between the characters.
Yep.
So it's a win-win
totally
all the fuck
agree.
around.
And it's not perfect. I hate the voiceover narration at the end of it. And there are moments of
There's your cheesy 80s sex scene.
Yeah.
Which isn't as bad because you see Edward almost is dick for quite a while. He's fucking the sand on the beach.
Yeah, that was weird. But there's moments where they're making the characters quirky just to have them be quirky. But to me, it doesn't matter because this movie just it tried so hard and did so much good work to give you an interesting, never seen it before approach to a scare that has a bigger theme behind it, and it's literally right now my second favorite werewolf movie ever. So love it, American Werewolf. Of course.
I figured.
And the howling right behind it. But
where's the Wolfman?
Whoa! I liked it. It's just way down. You got Wolfman 41, you got Dog Soldier, there's just a lot.
That's fair.
Right.
That's fair. Anyways, yeah, I liked it too as a fan of the werewolves.
Yep.
I dig it.
Yep.
I think you guys will too. So we went a little long on that one, but it was worth it. There was a lot of.
Well, we did 2 movies, so right.
There was a lot of jelly in that donut.
There is.
So tomorrow's election day, or today's election day, if you're listening to it.
Yes.
To it now. Go out.
Good luck with your transformation.
Yeah, go out. Good luck with your transformation. Do a little bit of voting if you can.
Yeah, sure.
I'm not going to pressure you. But if you don't vote, you know what you can do at that time. You can like us on Facebook.
Yes.
Join the Hollow Weekly community where we post some killer questions that we love to read on the air, and we love everyone's answers. And if you have even more time than that, give us a rating on iTunes.
Yes.
We very, very much appreciate it.
For sure.
And yeah, until next time, watch Wolfen, skip late phases. That's Nick's. That was my personal werewolf transformation. Was talking bad about one
Nick's
film.
Gone bad.
I don't know. I like to think if I'm having a pissy attitude, am I the Wolfman or am I Hyde? And for this episode, I think I went Wolfman.
You went Wolfman.
So until next time, it's been Hollow Weekly. See you guys later.
Bye, guys.